we still haven't developed what's called not artificial intelligence, but artificial general intelligence. And artificial general intelligence means a machine that can do essentially everything that a human can do across the board. So right now, they can only do very specific, narrow tasks, and that's it. And so as soon as we develop an artificial general intelligence, then that's going to be an entirely different ballgame. And but the difficulty is that, and there's a unanimous agreement with this among artificial intelligence experts, the way intelligence is being built now is not the way human intelligence is built. So in the same way that an airplane doesn't flap its wings, human computers don't think the way humans think. And so we're producing a type of intelligence that uses algorithms to get close to formal operational thinking and logic and that type of stuff. What it can't do, and this is Moravec's paradox, which is the easy is hard and the hard is easy. The hard things we thought, like being able to win chess or being able to win Jeopardy, those turn out to be the easy things because we just skim off the top intelligence mechanisms and create algorithms for them. But if the hard is easy and the easy is hard, the difficulty is computers can't pick up paper clips. It's the fundamental basic sensorimotor and action activities that computers just can't do. And I believe there's a reason for that. I believe that evolution produced 14 billion years of transcend and include, transcend and include, transcend and include, transcend and include, that got us more and more complex intelligence. So by the time a human body shows up, it's the results of millions of transformations going all the way back to the Big Bang. Moreover, it has in its own body all of the holons that have ever really been developed. And of course, they're getting more complex, but they have quarks. The human body has quarks. It has atoms. It has molecules. It has cells. It has reptilian brain stems. It has paleomammalian limbic systems. I mean, it has all of the stages of evolution represented in it. And these all have a prehension that add up and add up and add up because they transcend and include, transcend and include, transcend and include. That's why a child can bend over and pick up a paperclip. But a computer lacks all of that 14 billion year prehension. It doesn't have any of it. And so, of course, the easy stuff is hard. We can't get the easy stuff to work. What we're creating are algorithms of intelligence, none of which operate the way human consciousness operates. And that means what we're doing is creating a type of intelligence that is fundamentally alienated from the entire cosmos. There's nothing in it. There's no quarks, there's no atoms, there's nothing that gives this building prehensive unification intelligence. All we get instead are algorithms of the upper 4 or 5 levels of this. And those don't operate the way human thinking operates. And the experts are very clear on this. They say we're developing intelligence, but it doesn't work the way human intelligence works. But that's what's going to continue to become perfected and grow and develop. And it's going to be an intelligence that is alien from every form of intelligence in the entire cosmos. All of it. It doesn't have the exterior components that any living thing has, and therefore its interiors are going to be completely different. So many, many people working in AI say there's no reason whatsoever that a machine would intrinsically adopt the values that a human being has. And so if you look at the number of experts that increasingly become, frankly, pessimistic about where this is going, the numbers are growing fast. So that's my one concern, is that we're creating an evolutionary stream that doesn't have any fundamental resonance or connection with any organic level of development anywhere in the cosmos. So it's an artifact to the extreme. And we'll just have to wait and see, can artifacts, we're creating their right-hand quadrants now. On the left-hand quadrants they generate, will they have values? Will they have meaning? Will they have compassion? Will they have care? Or will the sheer mechanistic nature of these things not be capable of generating values and compassion and care? Right now, it doesn't look like it. But the one thing computer people have learned is never say never. Too many things that we thought would never, ever, ever happen are happening. But they're happening in ways that human beings don't do them. And that's a fundamental issue that we have to at least think about. One of the best things that we can do is develop artificial intelligence that acts as enhancements of human capacities. So there are still things humans can do better than machines. And combining the two turns out to be a pretty good recommendation. So chess matches today are what's called open, and many of them you can enter with a computer. And what they found is that humans using computers can be computers any day. No question. But humans without computers get clobbered by computers every day. So the best combination is when you have humans who can use what they bring and computers bringing what they bring. That combination beats computers hands down every time. So that gives us a little bit of a better indication about where we could start taking this artificial intelligence.
As you know, there's a fairly vocal movement called by different names. Transhumanism is one of them, that actually believes that human consciousness is going to completely download into computers, and that human beings will live an eternal life in a computer framework. Now, obviously, a lot of questions there. One of the ones that I raised in Boomeritis, just because I thought this was very funny, was given, because if you actually look at artificial intelligence and what is being studied and who is doing it, what you find is that it's really largely late adolescent human males. And what they do, their idea of human intelligence is essentially formal, operational, rational thinking. And they take that type of thinking and they skim it off the top of human beings. And they try to get that loaded into computers. And that overlooks the actual developmental evolutionary sequence of human consciousness, which is that it started in the first prehension of the first atoms, and then when atoms evolved into molecules, then molecules had a bit larger prehension or proto-consciousness, and then that evolved into cells, and the early cells had some of the earliest forms of consciousness and proto-feeling, and all of these are adding up to create at considerably higher levels of evolutionary development to create human consciousness and passing through all sorts of stages, some of the earliest ones including just a neural net, for example, that you'd have in shrimp or some of these early forms of life, and then the reptilian brain stem when lizards first start to emerge, and you get this very rudimentary reptilian brain stem, which human beings still have, and then the paleo-mammalian, the limbic system, which horses possess. And all of these are evolving and growing and developing and evolving, meshing with their environment to grow and create these various structures of increasingly complex consciousness. And so then it finally gets into human beings, and we start to get sensory-motor intelligence and pre-operational intelligence, and then concrete operational thinking, and then finally formal operational thinking, which is sort of the basic point where most artificial intelligence picks up and takes off, is right around formal operational cognition. And what these researchers do, as I said, is out of all of the literally hundreds of evolutionary transformational changes that have occurred to get up to formal operational thinking, all of those are just forgotten. And formal operational thinking itself is just scooped off, and that's what's attempted to be loaded into computers. And that, of course, leaves out the whole, in a sense, the whole body, the feeling, texture of consciousness, and all the organicness that's actually there in the real world of not only human beings, but all of the precursors. Shrimp, horses, lizards, chimpanzees, and so on. And so the idea is that you somehow get silicon-driven chips to reproduce human consciousness. And then we are going to download our entire existence into computers. And that is going to be the future of humanity, is going to be human awareness wedded with the massively increased capacity of computers to do certain types of computational actions. And so, again, that's overlooking all of the organicness and the feelingness and the prehensiveness that's actually going on, and just looking at the silicon chip and the extraordinarily outrageous computations that silicon chips can perform. They have already surpassed the amount of brain power that exists in the world, and that happened several years ago. But again, it's just measuring these sort of digital processes that computers can do. But the idea is that human beings will be married with that, downloaded into that, and exist as that into the indefinite future. Brings up the same sort of problems, which is about, well, make sure your computer is kept in a safe place.
And there's another factor that I wanted to just briefly discuss that's contributed, I think, inadvertently to this fragmentation and siloing of society and culture. And that's the ongoing technological unfolding. You recall it when, for example, the net first was invented. It was universally extolled as, a single unifying, it was called a global brain. And it was a one single unifying, integrating, international system and network that's going to bring everybody together into a great unified, holistic system. And now, 30 or 40 years later, we see pretty much the opposite has happened. In social media has essentially promoted completely siloed, enclosed communities where your own interests are reflected back to you and never challenged. And if they are challenged, then you get trolled. And so it's really become a completely divisive and fragmenting force. And it lets people's narcissistic, self-promoting, self-glorifying tendencies run unchecked. And it's a so-called sort of Mardi Gras effect. Whenever you're wearing a mask or something, people get just a little stupider and crazier because they're not held accountable. Nobody can see who's really doing it. So they'll do all sorts of things that ordinarily they wouldn't do. And Douglas Rushkoff, among a lot of books he's done, one is called Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus. And as the title indicates, he's trying to talk about some of the unforeseen negative consequences of technology, particularly at this stage of its ongoing unfolding. And I'll say just there's one other quick thing about some unintended consequences. One of the things that brought Trump in, of course, is his claim to bring back jobs. And part of the loss of jobs is indeed an ongoing technology. One, as artificial intelligence gets more and more sophisticated, there are more and more human tasks that robots can mimic effectively. And so it started out where roboticized artificial intelligence was taking jobs away from simple, lower manual labor type of jobs, warehouse work and welding and that kind of thing. But as it got more sophisticated, it's moved up well into middle range, in some cases upper range, educational jobs. So almost all stock investing, for example, is now done by machines. Payroll is done by machines. We're starting to teach machines how to do medical diagnosis. They're already outperforming doctors in the capacity to do that. And it's just going to increase. One well-respected think tank estimated that robots will replace 47% of today's jobs by 2020. Now, interestingly, I think that within 100 years or so, it'll probably be close to 100%. And actually, if you look at history, work has always been felt to be an evil that it was forced on humanity. And everybody was cursed with having to work to survive. And it was always looked on as an ultimate, horrifying, malevolent factor. And utopian was nobody had to work. Well, machines are going to get us there within about 100 years. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep putting more and more people out of work, more and more people out of work, more and more people out of work. The resentment's going to build and build and build. Right now, they're blaming it on, all the jobs gone overseas and all of that. But a large part of it is this increasing drive of technology towards an ultimately utopian state. But in the meantime, it's an extremely painful state. Most of the people in Silicon Valley take it as a matter of fact that we will soon have something generally referred to as a basic guaranteed annual income. And they believe that because they know that they are, in effect, going to take everybody's jobs away from them. And so they know that we're going to have to handle that somehow. And the only way we're going to be able to handle it is basic income for everybody. No matter what else you do, if you want extra money, you can go work. But you won't have to get the essential basics of a good life. And so that's going to come into play. In the meantime, it's not helping. And it's certainly helping somebody like Trump, who claims that he's going to take care of that and finds people naive enough to believe it. But he's certainly got the larger percentage of the unemployment vote.